This video has kindly been sponsored by OneFootball. With a rating of 4.8 out of 5 from over 70,000 reviews on the App Store, OneFootball really is the biggest and best app for football news, scores and stats from hundreds of leagues worldwide. In terms of FPL, you can also follow each team in the Premier League and get live updates from all the goals and assists every game week. Download it for free using the link in the description box below.
Warning, playing FPL is highly addictive. It may cause stress, a loss of free time, a resentment towards friends or colleagues, and a dislike to football in general. Please, FPL responsibly.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Fixture Watch. Before starting today's video, don't forget that in Gameweek 18, Liverpool and West Ham don't have a fixture, and this is what we call a blank game week in FPL. This is because Liverpool were scheduled to play West Ham this weekend, but had to have it rescheduled due to playing in the Club World Cup. This means neither team's players will score any points in FPL for this game week. Therefore, for this episode, I've put both Liverpool and West Ham at the bottom of the FDR table. Sitting at the top of the FDR table is Aston Villa, who now host back-to-back home games against Southampton and Norwich. What Villa don't have on their side at the moment is form, losing 3 games on the bounce. But these 3 games included away trips to Chelsea and Sheffield United, and also a home game against second place Leicester, so 3 very tough games in fairness. The Villains now head into a run of much more winnable games, playing Southampton, Norwich, Watford and Burnley in their next 4. Despite the lack of form, their talisman Jack Grealish has been quite impressive, especially for the very cheap price of just 6.2 million. Since coming back from injury 5 game weeks ago, the midfielder has produced 3 attacking returns with 2 goals and an assist. In those 5 game weeks, he's also had 13 shots inside the box, the second most of all midfielders in FPL, one behind Mo Salah for half the price. If you are keen on Jack Grealish, just keep in mind that he is currently on 4 bookings, therefore 1 away from a 1-match ban. Having conceded 30 goals this season, Aston Villa currently have one of the worst defensive records, so completely understandable if you do want to stay away. However, of the 30 goals they've conceded, only 11 of them came at home, and from their 3 clean sheets this season, all of those came at Villa Park. Their budget defender Matt Targett has provided some good attacking threat in recent weeks, with 7 chances created, the 5th highest amongst defenders. So, at just 4.4 million, he could be a very handy option, because the next 2 fixtures do look favourable, and he's then cheap enough to stick on your bench in the away games if needed. With a difficulty rating of 13 in the next 5 game weeks, Crystal Palace is another team who find themselves towards the top of the FDR table. The Eagles face Newcastle, West Ham, Southampton, Norwich and Arsenal in the next 5 games, undoubtedly some good fixtures there on paper. Despite the good fixtures, it's worth noting that Palace are currently the league's 2nd lowest scorers, only managing 15 in 17 games so far. The underlying stats show that this isn't down to bad luck either, because they've had the joint lowest shots on target this season, as well as having the least big chances of any team. Clearly, there's a lack of creativity and end product within this side, but what has been impressive is their defensive exploits. Palace have kept 6 clean sheets so far this season, only 2nd place Leicester City on 7 have more. In terms of goals conceded, they rank 4th best, conceding just 19 in 17 games played, and what makes their defensive assets especially appealing is because Palace don't score many goals, if they do manage to keep clean sheets, it gives their defenders and goalkeeper a very good chance of bonus points as well. Their goalkeeper Guaita has now racked up a massive 34 points in the last 4 game weeks, notably picking up bonus points in all 4 games. What a handy option he looks to be in goal, even more so with Palace having an excellent run of fixtures for the long term now. Their budget defenders also remain appealing for the same reason, like Martin Kelly, as again, they're defensively sound, cheap enough to bench when needed, and have a very nice run of games all the way up until game week 33. The next team towards the top of the FDR table is Manchester United, who, following impressive wins against Spurs and Man City recently, now head into a run of much more favourable fixtures. The Red Devils play Watford, Newcastle, Burnley, Arsenal and Norwich in the next 5 game weeks. Defensively, United aren't a team that have been reliable in FPL for clean sheets. In 17 games this season, they've only managed 2, the joint worst in the league so far. If you are still holding on to the likes of De Gea, Wan-Bissaka or Maguire though, then due to their nice upcoming fixtures, there could be some justification in keeping them a little bit longer. Their next two opponents, Watford and Newcastle, are struggling for goals this season. However, it's their complacency to concede at least one goal a game that does worry me, and with so many cheaper defenders racking up clean sheet points, it could be wise to look elsewhere sooner rather than later and go for defenders who are simply providing better value for money. What has begun to click recently though is United's goal scoring, with the Red Devils scoring 13 in the last 6 game weeks, third most behind only Liverpool and Spurs. Both Martial and Rashford could be shrewd signings over the next 5 game weeks, but if you are torn on which one to opt for, it's worth noting that the underlying stats suggest that Rashford appears to be the much better option, granted for an extra 1.4 million. In the last 6 game weeks, Rashford has had 27 shots to Martial's 14, 16 inside the box to Martial's 7, and 8 big chances to Martial's 1. Rashford has also bagged 5 goals in the last 6 games, whilst Martial only has 1, and they're level on assists with 2 apiece. It's worth considering that Rashford also has penalties to fall back on too, which is another string to his bow. Other teams towards the top of the FDR table include Bournemouth, the fixture-proof Manchester City, and also Spurs, and it's Tottenham's run from game weeks 19 to 21 that look especially appealing. Since Mourinho took over in game week 13, Spurs have now scored 14 goals, the joint most in the last 5 game weeks, averaging just under 3 goals a game. In the previous 12 game weeks, they only managed 18 goals, so clearly Jose's made a big impact in getting them firing so far. This makes Tottenham's back-to-back games against Norwich and Southampton soon very appealing from an attacking perspective. Their next 2 games are Chelsea and Brighton, both of which are at home, and interestingly, Chelsea actually have one of the worst defensive records on the road this season. They're yet to keep a clean sheet away from home and have conceded 17 goals in just 8 road trips. So again, Tottenham's attacking assets could be a decent shout for this game week. There's an array of options here, with Kane, Dele Alli and Son all proving very popular. Personally, I prefer Son and Ali over Kane, simply for the better value for money. But that doesn't mean Kane can't be an exceptional option over Christmas. Arguably, he is the most rotation-proof and does love a goal over the festive period. If you're in the market for a differential though, is Lucas Moura an interesting shout at a cut price 7 million? The Brazilian has featured in every game so far under Mourinho and has scored in 3 of the 4 games that he started. Granted, he is the riskier pick because unlike Kane for example, Lucas Moura isn't immune to rotation, but at just 4.6% ownership, he's a cheaper and less owned way into this Spurs attack, and on his day he can be a very explosive FPL option. So let's now look towards the bottom of the FDR table and see which teams have a much more difficult run of games. Also, if you find the Fixture Watch helpful, be sure to support FPL TV by dropping a like on the video and most importantly getting subscribed to the channel. One team towards the bottom of the FDR table is Southampton, with 3 of their next 4 games having a difficulty rating of 4 according to FPL. In recent weeks, Southampton have had a very favourable run, facing Norwich, Watford, Newcastle and West Ham. But despite the nice fixtures, it was only Danny Ings who really proved to be a decent FPL asset from the Saints. What's made Danny Ings such a great option recently is that because Southampton don't score many goals, when Ings does, it always gets him additional bonus points. In fact, this season Danny Ings has scored in 9 different game weeks, and every single time he's picked up at least 1 bonus point. It's also worth noting that within this fine season for him, he's netted against the bigger teams too, with goals against Liverpool, Chelsea and Spurs. So even though Southampton do have a tricky run coming up, there's definitely justification in holding on to him. But of course, that's up to you. Elsewhere in the side, there doesn't appear to be any other viable FPL options right now. Defensively, they have the worst record, with only 2 clean sheets and 36 goals conceded. James Ward-Prowse in midfield has done okay and picked up a goal and an assist in the last 4 game weeks. But with this difficult turn of fixtures now, I think a move to Jack Grealish could be logical, with those being priced very similar and the latter having much better fixtures on paper. With a difficulty rating of 17, Sheffield United also find themselves towards the bottom of the FDR table, and this is due to them facing back-to-back away games against Man City and Liverpool soon. Now, Sheffield United have offered such amazing value all season in all areas of the pitch, but it's been in defence where the real value has come from. John Lundstrom currently sits as the highest scoring FPL defender, whilst Baldock and Ender Stevens find themselves in the top 10, all at a cut price of 5.2 million and below. With an away trip to Brighton and also home games against Watford and West Ham in the next 5 game weeks, there's still plenty of reason to hold and play your Sheffield United options. But just keep game weeks 20 and 21 in mind and try to have a plan in place, because with Man City and Liverpool away in back-to-back fixtures, it does look like a logical time to bench them and utilise other players in your squad. In game weeks 20 and 21, Crystal Palace face Southampton and Norwich, Tottenham face Norwich and Southampton, whilst Leicester play West Ham and Newcastle. So that's a few teams which can cover your Sheffield defenders effectively if you do wish to bench them. Another team towards the bottom of the FDR table at the moment is Leicester, and this is due to them facing Man City and Liverpool in back-to-back games in the next 2 game weeks. Similar to Sheffield United, Leicester are another team who are providing incredible value this season, so there's no need to panic despite having 2 very difficult upcoming fixtures. It's worth noting that after playing Man City and Liverpool, the Foxes then head into a much nicer run of games again, facing West Ham, Newcastle and Southampton in the following 3, with some nice fixtures after those as well. Both Man City and Liverpool have looked vulnerable defensively for the majority of this season, so attacking-wise, continuing to play Vardy and Maddison is a more than viable strategy. Though if you're feeling brave, it could also be an opportunity to go against the grain. In terms of defence, for the next 2 game weeks you may want to utilise your squad depth, and perhaps consider benching your Leicester defenders like the popular Soyuncu, as clean sheets could be unlikely. If you are looking to bench your Leicester defender in game weeks 18 and 19, then as mentioned, Aston Villa play Southampton and Norwich at home in those weeks, whilst Palace play Newcastle and West Ham. Therefore Martin Kelly and Matt Targett could provide some very decent cover there. The last team to discuss in this fixture watch is league leaders Liverpool, because not only do they have a blank fixture in the upcoming game week, but things do look tricky for them after that as well. Following their blank fixture in game week 18, they then face Leicester away straight after, currently the league's best defence. According to the FDR ratings, Liverpool don't have a fixture with a rating of 2 until game week 25, with lots of potentially difficult games on the way. This includes playing Wolves twice, facing a defensively sound Sheffield United, as well as playing Tottenham away and facing Manchester United soon. Now, this is Liverpool we're talking about, so having their options like Salah, Mane, Robertson and Trent can pay dividends on any given game week, and there's certainly no suggestions from me that you have to sell any of their players. In fact, because Mane and Salah are so reliable and involved in almost every goal Liverpool score, even doubling up on them from game week 20 isn't off the table. However, a bit like I mentioned with Leicester earlier, if you are feeling brave enough to go against the grain, then this run of games does look like the optimum time to try it, by using that extra money effectively elsewhere until game week 25 when things start to look much easier for Liverpool. As for their defensive options, like Robertson and Alexander-Arnold, I've been a huge advocate for them both this season and have doubled up for the majority, but given their unfavourable run of games coming up now, there does seem to be justification in dropping one of them and freeing up some much needed cash to spend elsewhere. Their attacking output has been superb so far, but plenty of cheaper defenders are keeping up with them in FPL, and that's what's convinced me to sell one of them for now, at least for the short term. So that wraps up this episode of the Fixture Watch. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode and also found some of the analysis useful. If so, be sure to drop a like on the video and get subscribed to FPL TV. You can also hit the notification bell so you never miss an FPL TV upload. Good luck to all of you watching for your transfer planning, FPL responsibly, and I'll catch you all very soon.